And it's Wednesday afternoon. Welcome into Helping Seniors of Brevard right here on the Talk to Me network. Kerry Fink is our host and the Executive Director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. So, Kerry, let's get things underway for this Wednesday afternoon.
Hey, thank you, John Harper. You know, it's an exciting Wednesday. It's always great to be here on the radio, 90.3 FM, WEJF, and welcome to those who join us online at WEJF.net. And actually, hello to you if you're joining us via podcast, whether it be iTunes Podcast or Google Podcast or Amazon Podcast or however you're getting to hear this. We appreciate you being here. It's we call it our Wednesday lunchtime gathering, because we always have such a good time gathering around the radio. And John Harper, you know, we are literally, as we are sitting here today, just a week and a half away from the 6th annual Helping Seniors Car Raffle Grand Drawing. And that's going to be a great night. And let me also introduce to you our guest, who is no stranger to this festivity. It is none other than Barbara McIntyre, who is reverse mortgage expert and a long-term friend of the Helping Seniors organization. How are you today, Barbara?
I'm terrific, Kerry, and glad to be here. And I have to say, I really can't even imagine how exciting it must feel to have your name called because your ticket was pulled out of that bin and you can pick one of those cars. I can't even hardly wrap my head around how someone must feel when that happens.
Yeah, to me, it's incredible. You know, we just debuted, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll want to go back and take a look at it at DodgeVChevyChallenge.com. We actually, over the weekend, we debuted our 3rd annual Dodge versus Challenge, Dodge versus Chevy Challenge, which has become sort of an annual tradition tied in with the Helping Seniors Car Raffle, because 2 of the top cars that people usually fuss over in the raffle is the Dodge Challenger. You could win that, or you could win a Chevrolet Camaro, but you could also choose, like last year's winner did, David Odahowski. He took a Kia Sportage. There's also a Mazda Miata convertible. These are all cars from AJ's family of fine car dealers. And so that's why you're able to pick a brand new car. But over the years, it's come up that the Dodge and Chevy, pretty early on, there became these camps. You know, some of the people that help us in Helping Seniors said, I'm all about the Chevy, and others decided it was all about the Dodge. And then the gauntlet was thrown down, and so we started this Dodge versus Chevy thing now, and it's 3 years. You have to go back and see this. But my point, Barbara McIntyre, was that the winner of the 2019 Dodge Challengers. That's what she picked when she won the Helping Seniors Car Raffle that year. Her name is Karen Hoodless, and she was kind enough to bring her 2019 Dodge Challenger out to the test track, and we were interviewing her as part of the whole Dodge versus Chevy Challenge. And Barbara, you know, she tells the story there. She said she had already bought some tickets. She had come in to literally just explore the museum and had no idea that she was going to go home the winner. She decided kind of at the last minute to maybe sweeten her chances and buy an extra ticket there or something like that. I think she described she ended up buying 5 tickets for a $100 donation. And the pictures are kind of, at this point, almost legendary, because Mark Pylock, who is the owner of the museum, his lovely wife, Tatiana, reached in the barrel and pulls out the winning ticket. And Mark is great at this. He does it with like great drama. He says, okay, you know, he's given the numbers one at a time. And, you know, you can kind of hear a few disappointed, you know, if they realize their ticket didn't work. So he reads through all these numbers and he gets to the last number and it's like dead silence in the room. And we're all looking around, you know, is the winner here? Is the winner here? And all of a sudden, over in a corner, because the place is packed. If you've been there, you know how packed it is. So over in a corner, there's like 5 people standing around this lady, and they're all poking at her going, that's you. She was shell-shocked. She didn't even realize that it was her ticket. And so you see the photos when she comes up. I mean, she's like in a daze. But I got to tell you, here we are 3 years later. Looks great in that car.
Yeah.
So you gotta be in it to win it. And Barbara, you've been there. Tell somebody who's never been to the American Muscle Car Museum what kind of an experience that is really like.
Well, the museum is just amazing. There's so many varieties of old cars to new cars, really, and there are versions of cars that are raced. There are even old tractors from way, way back. And the museum is so big, you can actually spend a day walking up and down and looking at these cars. And then there's men who are there, people, I should say, that are there that are kind of like docents, and they know so much about the cars that they can tell you history. And so it's a fun event. Set aside going on the night of the drawing, and it's a party. So it's a double whammy if you go for the drawing and use your ticket to get in and look at all those amazing cars. So it's
Oh my goodness, you're saying it so on the point. We were privileged to go in and film a few promo segments that you can see if you go to the Facebook page, for example, at Helping Seniors. We also put these things out on. We have a Twitter page if you follow Twitter, or we actually are also in LinkedIn, and then we have the YouTube channel. But they allowed us to come into the museum early and film some promos to say this is what you get to see when you come out here. And Barbara, I have to tell you, Ed Diedick, who is the operations manager there, he keeps all those cars running for Mark. It does a spectacular job. He was telling us now the collection, and this was a month ago. There could be new cars by now. He was telling us that there's 398 cars now in the museum. And Barbara, I don't know if you've noticed, but each year when we've gone back, the cars inside the museum get a little bit closer and closer together because he's got more and more cars.
And they go up.
Right. I was going to say, I noticed that then, right? Because now he's got some double stacks. I remember that from the days we lived in New York City, in the city, and that's how they would park your cars. They would have, trying to get all the usage they could out of the lot. They would double stack some of these cars. Well, this time when we went into film, Ed was telling me, I may have the number wrong, but I think he said that Mark had acquired 12 Dodge Vipers, which are that very, very high-end exclusive sports car. And they were literally, if you remember how you walk down the aisles, you literally got to Dodge Row, and they are literally in the aisle. He's got that many cars in there. So even if you were there last year, you want to be sure you're there this year to check out the collection, because I've been told that it's the largest collection of muscle cars in the entire North American continent. So I would say you got to be there.
I also was told when I was there that because he's always acquiring additional cars, that they change them, they bring in new cars. He occasionally sells something, but for the most part he just keeps acquiring, and so you're bound to see something you haven't seen every time you go.
Yeah, I was going to ask if John Harper's close by to also weigh in on this, because it's just an experience, John. It just really is.
Well, that's a good way to put it, Kerry Fink. It is an experience. It's something that you won't forget, and it is a great opportunity on a Saturday night to bring your family, friends, whomever, bring everybody along, because nobody will go away disappointed. And I've always found it interesting, Kerry, that as you walk down the aisles with the various sections of various cars, the Fords are all together, the Chevy Corvettes are all together, and the Dodges and what have you. And it's been interesting to hear people say, and it doesn't fail, when they walk by certain cars and they say, that was my first car out of high school, or something like that.
Right.
So it brings back some great memories too. But I want to tell you, it is the largest collection of cars in a museum here in North America. Jay Leno does have the second largest collection, but the American Muscle Car Museum here in Melbourne is the largest collection, and I'm looking forward to being there for our event because, as you were just saying, Mark Pyloff has added some new cars. You said he added the Dodge Viper, and that was quite a car, and I believe that was a 12-cylinder car. Am I not correct on that?
You know cars better than I do. All I know is there was 12 of them, it looked like, sitting in a row, brand spanking new, and they let Ashley Caswell with Hibiscus Court, who's normally she's team Chevy, but she was over kind of behind enemy lines. They actually let her get in one of the cars, and they were talking about the fact that it had like 8 miles on it. I mean, it's like never hit the road, and that's the thing, John and Barbara, that is also fascinating to me is if you ever get to walk around, like Barbara, you were talking about, if you get to talk to one of the volunteers, or you get to speak to Ed or Andrew Mackey there, who they really know the collection, you quickly get a sense that the cars aren't there by accident. There is a story behind every single car. It's not just Mark saw a car and said, I want that car.
Right.
He's figured out there's a strategy of finding these really special, like I said, story behind every car kind of vehicles that you'll see in there.
Yeah,
Well,
it's really exciting.
The story behind them, I'm sure, Barb and Kerry, is always interesting. I've heard some of the stories in the past about some of the cars, and you're right, Kerry Fink, that Mark Pyloff does have a specific rhyme or reason for each of those cars being there in his showroom, and it's really cool. And one more thing I might add, he also has a large collection. Now, I don't know if this is the largest in the country, but he has a great collection of signs for various cars, a Dodge dealership, a Chevy dealership, whatever, and they're neon or the various types of signs that have been produced over the years, and that's kind of interesting to see as well. And that goes with the motif of the Muscle Car Museum too, in the fact that the various signs, whether it be a Buick, an Oldsmobile, they've got signs for those cars that you used to see displayed in the dealership. So that's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, and you said it so well. It's not only that, it's just a great evening out there. I was thinking, like you were talking about these different cars, and there is a funny clip up if you go to either the Facebook or the Helping Seniors YouTube. The ladies, when they were in there doing a promo in the museum, they saw that Mark had just recently added a DeLorean, and I mean, it has 16 miles on it. So it's like it never even hit the road. And so, but of course, for the ladies, they decided it was a time machine because everybody remembers the movie Back to the Future. So with Ed's permission, they got to hop in it, and at least the story they tell is they took a trip back to 1971 to the original Starbucks in Seattle for a cup of coffee. So you have to go see the video to follow that one. But the point is, it's just a great evening at the museum. They provide the hospitality that Mark and his team of volunteers offer up is nothing short of outstanding. They provide beverages, beer, wine, soda, water, some snacks that you can enjoy while you're walking around seeing the museum. And of course, everything builds toward that big moment when we pull the winning ticket. And people ask, do you have to be present to win? The answer is no. We do a Facebook live broadcast. We do a YouTube live broadcast. We pull your ticket. You're the winner. No shenanigans. We will call you on the phone if you're not there, or try to reach you on the phone anyway if you're not there right away, because that's how the deal works. But if you're in town, this is not a night to miss. Barbara, you've seen the how much fun people have there.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not a night to miss. And on and really buy the ticket because if you're there and they pull your name, you pick your car. I mean, how amazing is that? And Brevard County is just not that big, so your likelihood of being the lucky person is so much better than playing the lottery, for goodness sake, that there's no reason not to buy a ticket.
I get asked that a lot of times because we've been out at a lot of car shows and different events where we're offering the tickets up, and a lot of people will ask that. They say, now what's the odds on this? And I'm not a Vegas kind of person, so I don't really follow all that. But what I do know is, like, if you've ever read the odds for Powerball or something like that, it's like in the 100 millions or tens of millions, or it's pretty. You'd be pretty unique if you won it. In this case, it's typically a couple of thousand tickets because primarily it's local. I mean, there are some people who have out-of-state addresses who buy tickets, but the reality is we are 100% local charity, and so therefore most of our support comes pretty much 100% locally. So you have a really good odd at winning. And here's the thing, I just want to say a very special thank you to Mark Pylock for hosting us ever since that museum has been open. And believe me, we take this not for granted. We are so blessed by his generosity towards us. And I think he has a real compassion and a feeling for wanting to help us with the seniors because, Barbara, and John, if you guys know, most often, first of all, you can't get in the museum unless it's a charitable event, typically. And secondly, usually they're what I call black tie kind of affairs. Somebody's paying $150, $250 a night to be in the museum. It's that kind of a thing. And I remember early on that Mark graciously made a special dispensation. He said normally the only other time of the year that he opens up the museum is he supports our veterans. And so there's a once a year annual veterans and their families can attend free kind of day. Outside of that, everything else is pretty high end. But he said, listen, I understand seniors, are working more with fixed incomes. I want to give them an opportunity to enjoy the museum as well. And so now this has become a tradition. And we are so grateful to Mark and Ed and Andrew and his entire team of volunteers. But you got to be there. So, Barbara, you have tickets. If somebody calls you, Barbara McIntyre, Reverse Mortgage Funding, you can get tickets directly from you. How do they reach you? We're going to talk a little bit about why now is a good time for reverse mortgages here in a minute, but let's start by giving them a number so that they could reach you and say, for now, I want to get a ticket, and then talk to me about reverse mortgages if they want to.
Okay, well, let's get to the important stuff. My number is 321-698. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again, 321-254-7880, and I will actually deliver the tickets to you. So you can call me, and you can also call me at 321-698. I cannot think of my phone number. I'm having a senior moment. How crazy is that?
Hey, listen. Let me tell you what happened when I was filming. I was filming the Dodge Chevy Challenge. I said you could win in front of the Dodge team. I said you could win a Dodge Chevy, and they looked at me like, you have lost your mind.
Well, I certainly had a moment, so I'm going to say that again, if I may. You can reach me at 259-7880, and that's area code 321-259-7880, and I will deliver the ticket to you. So please get your name in the hat.
Where can I get one of those Dodge Chevys?
Yeah, like I said, you have to. Have you ever? You've probably seen a cartoon like that where somebody said something that was wrong, and then just everybody just stops and stares. That's pretty much what happened. But I guess you could do it anyway. The point would be, give Barbara McIntyre a call to get your ticket, and as you'll hear as we journey on together on today's program, and we talk a little bit about why a reverse mortgage can be such an important tool, particularly at this time. As we go a little deeper into the program, you're gonna have another reason to want to give her a call. But let me give you a couple of other ways you can pick up tickets. Also, you could call our Helping Seniors Senior Information Helpline, which, by the way, is one of the things that your ticket purchase supports. We've now are into our 12th year of supporting the county through the Brevard Senior Information Helpline. We've helped well over 7,500 families free of charge to date. And Nancy just... it's kind of good news, bad news. She reached a new record, 550 calls last month, because the call volume is up tremendously. And, let's be honest, it's a helpline. So that's really means that the work of helping seniors is being deemed that much more important by the community, and that there's that much more need for help. So when you get a ticket, you're supporting that outreach. So if you call us at 321-473-7770, then she can get you safely set up with a ticket. You can also get one safely and securely online, helpingseniorscarraffle.com. All the Boniface Hires car dealerships have them available, and just about every one of our partners in the Helping Seniors organization can get you set up with tickets, just like Barbara McIntyre, reverse mortgage expert with Reverse Mortgage Funding. But you got to be in it to win it. And Barbara, we're going to kind of sort of shift gears into the more serious parts of this. I want to mention that I had the privilege, so it's been about a week back now, Channel 2, they call it WEJF TV, or local TV, but also Orlando TV. Their local bureau chief, a gentleman named Scott Heidler, called us on the Helping Seniors Helpline, and he said, listen, seniors are about to get the largest increase to their Social Security checks. I could have this wrong, but I thought he said in 40 years. But the number that I did remember was 8.7%. So on average, it means somebody will probably receive about $145 more per month in their Social Security check as we go into 2023. And what he wanted to talk to us about was he wanted to get our reaction. Is this going to help seniors? And then he asked us also, could we point him to a group of seniors, because he'd like to do some person on the street kind of interviews with some seniors and get some feedback. So on that front, we asked him to, we directed him over to our friends at the Palm Bay Senior Center and said, you'll probably find some seniors who will not be shy about sharing opinions. But from our perspective, I said, it's great that we're doing something from seniors, but I also have to tell you that we're hearing two sides of the story, because I was asking Nancy, what's your experience on the helpline? And she said, some people say this is good because it means now there's a difference between maybe getting something to eat and affording my medicines, because that extra $145 literally could make that kind of a difference. Or she said, I'm also getting calls from people say, well, this doesn't help me at all. My rent went up $500. I'm still in a world of hurt. And so this need for affordable housing for seniors is so important. And as we get on the second half of the show, Barbara McIntyre, I really want to talk about how the reverse mortgage can be a tool that if you have a home, could really be a key to managing your finances in your elder years. Perhaps it's even a tool to get a second home. We've talked about that in the past. And particularly with uncertainty in the housing market, I would think it probably makes more sense than ever to try to lock something in sooner than later if it's something that's on your, something that you're looking at on your dashboard as an idea. So, Barb, this is something I really want us to talk about. How are you seeing the market right now with what you're doing?
Well, so there's a lot of folks that are finding that their dividends that they draw from, and it's just a kind of a whole different category of folks, but with the markets down, they're wanting to have another place to go to access funds.
Yes.
So that they don't have to draw out of their invested portfolio. And I know that excludes a lot of people that we typically try to work the hardest for, because Helping Seniors of Brevard is really a nonprofit that spends 90% of its energy on helping people have stable housing, helping people get what they need. And so I try to do the best I can to look at all possibilities.
Yeah, that's good. Barbara McIntyre, reverse mortgage funding specialist. We're going to continue this conversation right after our mid-show break. Please stay with us for Helping Seniors Radio.
And this Wednesday afternoon, Helping Seniors of Brevard continues. Let's get back to the show and a very interesting conversation. Here's the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director of the organization, Kerry Fink. Hey, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper, and thank you. And by the way, John Harper, thank you for your service in helping seniors of Brevard. We don't talk about this all that often, but John Harper is really responsible for helping our president and founder, Joe Steckler, get broadcast going back in the days when Joe was a retired Navy captain. He is 88 going on 89, but the story goes, as I've heard it, you were literally working in the radio station and Joe walked in and started telling you about what he was trying to do for seniors. At that time, he was getting the Brevard Alzheimer's up and running and getting the Joe's Clubs built. And you helped him get radio going all those years ago, and that's been a tradition as we serve seniors ever since.
Well, we're very proud of that, Kerry, and thank you for mentioning that. There's a funny story that goes along with that. I was getting our radio station, WMEL, up and running and doing some cosmetic work on the inside of the building. I was painting, and I remember it was a very hot summer afternoon, I think in June or July. Joe Steckler walks in and he sees me all covered in paint, basically, and he said, can I talk to the manager or the owner? And I said, well, you are. And he said, no, I want to talk to the manager or the owner. I said, well, that's me, despite the way I look. So how can I help you? And he went on to tell me what he needed, and we've been longtime friends and always ready, willing, and able to help out wherever we can.
Yeah, and today, to this day, you serve on the board. You're actually the vice president of Helping Seniors, and thank you for all you do to help us along. And that kind of puts you in good company with our special guest today, Barbara McIntyre, because Barbara is another person very much like you who's been very concerned and active and willing to help us in our efforts to try to make things better for seniors. And this radio show, for example, that you're tuned into every Wednesday on 90.3 FM WEJF and online WEJF.net and on podcast. It's all part of what we try to do to get information in the hands of seniors. Our president and founder, Joe Steckler, has always talked about making an aging plan, and particularly because we just dodged Hurricane Ian on this coast anyway. It's become kind of clear when you make a hurricane plan, it does not mean you're wishing for a hurricane to hit you. What you're trying to do is get ahead of the storm, know what you're going to do if the storm is bearing down on you. And hopefully you don't have to use those plans, but you've made them, and that should give you some peace of mind. And Barbara McIntyre, that's kind of how I think about the point about a reverse mortgages. It may not be that you necessarily need to pull equity out of your house right away, but it would make sense to be prepared and know what to do when ahead of time. And I still smile thinking about Joe and the first time you guys were meeting, and Joe had heard probably a bunch of the negative press out there. People, it's a shady deal, Bob. They just want your house, and you really went on a campaign to educate him and help him to understand that this is a solid financial tool, and that was many years ago. And today, the whole perception now, financial planners go, no, this is an important part of your retirement planning and things like that. Talk a little bit. Maybe people don't really understand what a home mortgage, what a reverse mortgage is. They go, well, I know my home value's up, so I want to tap some equity, and they would probably think, well, I'll just call my banker and get a home equity loan or something. But there could be a better way to do that.
Exactly, Kerry, because if the person that's wanting to access funds is fully in retirement on a fixed income, they could possibly qualify for a home equity line of credit from their bank, but now they're obligated to make a monthly payment, which further stretches the budget. So really, a reverse mortgage is just a loan that is given to someone who has equity in their home that needs to tap into some of it, and it's just a way to defer making repayments until later. It's a flexible payment option. You can make payments anytime you want, but you're not obligated to make principal or interest payments. You're only obligated to pay your taxes and insurance, which you have to do whether you have a mortgage or not. And so what people think sometimes is, the bank is buying your house, but it's absolutely not true. The bank is just giving you a loan that has to be repaid if you don't live there or if you sell the home. And it is just another tool that can be added to a retirement strategy to help people not outlive their money. And that's the part that is really needs to be heard loud and clear. People retiring now, and I'm a baby boomer, and there's about 12,000 a day moving into their retirement. Those folks are underprepared for retirement. And so what happens, financial planners are just pulling their hair out, trying to find out how to protect those borrowers so that they don't outlive their money. And what's being understood now, and by a lot of people that are, PhDs that actually educate financial planners, is that adding housing wealth through a reverse mortgage is another strategy that really can give a much better projection of the money lasting. And so, it's funny, I can remember every conversation with Joe Steckler, and it was the first couple I could tell very much that he was totally did not know what he thought of the product. And over the years, as he heard me more and more, and he would always ask me to give him questions to ask me when we'd be on the radio or the TV. And he totally he understood it and became an advocate. And we got to where if someone called Helping Seniors of Brevard and had a reverse mortgage, but didn't understand it or had questions, then he would call me and say, Barbara, will you go see these folks? And I would say, absolutely. So I really feel like I really do want to give information to any boomer or senior in the county so that they know options, so they know their options.
Yeah, and the thing I think that also was impressive to Joe, and actually it is to me too, because I love the people that Helping Seniors has the privilege of being associated with, because these are people who are consummate professionals. They know their particular side of what they do for seniors inside and out. They're extremely ethical. I was just at a meeting yesterday, the Brevard Commission on Aging, and they were talking about the prevalence of frauds and scams among seniors, and it seems to be growing. And so one of the things is, Joe has been a tireless, I guess, police person to make sure that, the people that we associate with as Helping Seniors are people that really have the best interests of seniors at heart. And I've seen you, Barbara McIntyre, really be so generous with your time, and also to take the time to even say, well, this may not be right for you because of the situation you described to me. But at the same time, if you've helped people even when they've been far down the path, maybe they saw an ad on TV and were running down some other railroad tracks, and you still help them get to their destination. It shows the kind of caring that you have for the folks that talk talk with you.
Yeah, Kerry, that's really true. And that's why I'm so glad to be part of this organization because, I do believe that the business professionals that are a part of helping seniors of Brevard do have that same heart for the people that we serve. And it goes beyond whatever the product that you sell is, or, whether you're fixing plumbing or you're a dentist or, what a lawyer, elder law attorney, it's all about our heart for the seniors we serve. And that's so it goes beyond, if you can help someone, even if it has nothing to do with the mortgage, that's what we do. And it's just really, I'm very glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, so let's dive a little deeper. We got into the mid-show break, and I was just asking you, it says, it may sound funny. People hear, may see a TV commercial or something like that, but I don't know that most of us really understand what a reverse mortgage is, and maybe it makes sense just to give a brief overview, but then I really want us to get into why this could be an important time to have that conversation because of the intersection of interest rates and house values and all those kind of things.
Absolutely. So the reverse mortgage, like I tried to say earlier, is just a way to tap into equity in your home. It is much easier to qualify for than people trying to qualify for a bank loan or a new mortgage, which really doesn't serve them anyway because then they're forced to make payments. But it's an easier way to tap into equity. You can draw the equity at any time that you need it. So you can put a reverse mortgage in place when you turn 62 and maybe never draw on it until you're 82 and you want to have home services and you want to draw on that equity that you were told you could draw on to have home health care. Some people use the mortgage to pay off an existing mortgage that has a high mortgage payment because the reverse mortgage allows you not to have to make a monthly payment just by paying off the current mortgage with a reverse mortgage can significantly improve that person's livelihood. There's possibly you're 62 and you really want to retire, but you know that when you turn 66 or 67, you will be able to tap into a much higher amount of Social Security benefit. So instead of it retiring at 62, you could have a reverse mortgage, draw on the reverse mortgage, and then when you hit the age of even 70, when you hit the age that gives you maximum Social Security benefits, you can turn on your Social Security and stop drawing on the reverse mortgage. There is just a multitude of things that you can do with the equity of your home, and most importantly, you own your home. You make all your own decisions. The lender does not tell you what to do. They don't tell you that you can't leave your property. You can leave your property. You just can't leave it permanently. They don't tell you anything. I mean, you have to only pay your property taxes. If you don't pay your taxes on any home, they'll be auctioned on the courthouse steps eventually. You have to maintain your homeowner's insurance. And if you don't do that and something catastrophic happens, you won't have a house. So the reason the lender requires that as a condition to keep the mortgage is because, and this is the most amazing thing, the only asset that someone has that's going to be responsible to repay this mortgage when that borrower decides to move or passes away, the only asset used to repay it is the house. So they're not, it's so secure and so insured by FHA insurance that even the heirs are protected in case the house ever lost value and the loan was greater than the home. The heirs don't even get tapped for a deficiency judgment. 99% of the time today, the house with home appreciation, the house value well exceeds the mortgage debt, and the heirs are able to sell the home and keep that increased value above the debt. So most people just don't know what they don't know, and that's why I encourage anyone who even considers or has an additional need for money and owns a home. It's only a phone call, and I love to talk, as you can see. So feel free to call me at 321-259-7880. And I will be more than glad to listen to your situation and give you the honest advice about this product.
You know, and that's the thing that is so important as you're considering this, because what I heard you really talking about is options. You know, it's when you're backed into a corner in a crisis, then you probably only have one way through, and it's usually pretty expensive and pretty non-preferred. It's kind of like like we were talking about at the start of the show, in a hurricane plan. If you need water the day of the hurricane, you could be in trouble. If you planned ahead, you can really ride it out fairly well. And that's just an example. But if we get that about something like a hurricane, we can also understand why a little pre-planning makes a lot of sense. And I have to tell you, this year in the Helping Seniors organization, we made our theme, we called it Getting Your Ducks in a Row, which is basically a euphemism for what Joe has always talked about, getting your aging plan together. And we've already decided that we really want to make next year, our theme is Don't Try This on Your Own, which is a correlator to that. You know, a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to try some stuff on my own. I got Google. I can figure this out. I'm pretty smart. And yet, Barbara, the horror stories I've heard from every elder law attorney I've ever sat down with, somebody will come in and said, I did this will online or something like that. And the problem with those kind of documents, for example, is that if you're trying to operate them within a crisis, there is no do-over. You can't go, oops, so sorry, I made a mistake. Let me go back and fix it, because there's no chance to do that. And so I think that same ability to grab the expertise of somebody. I heard an elder law attorney make this statement. I want to attribute it to Amy Van Fossen, whose law office has been another longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization. I think I heard her explain once. She said, for most people, going through this kind of paperwork is once or maybe twice in a lifetime. She said, we're doing this 20 or 30 times a week. We have a lot of a lot of experience of knowing how not to trip up and how to maneuver through all that. And I was thinking that's really true with you, Barbara, because if somebody sees an ad and maybe responds to an 800 number, they don't know what's going on, or worse yet, if it's on the internet, it must be true, right? They found a number out on the internet and they just blindly call into it. You can't be sure the person on the other end of that call has your best interest at heart. And yet the difference is, if somebody calls you, you're local. You can sit down face to face with them. You're part of our community. They can ask you the questions. They say, I don't understand why is this part of this? What happens if that occurs? My son is telling me this. What do I say to him?
Absolutely, Kerry.
Yeah, why would you try this on your own is my point.
Yeah, because sometimes people are, and I can understand this, they are concerned that if they reach out to someone local, that they might get someone who is too persistent, maybe acts like a car salesman, I don't know, but, is selling something instead of offering information. And so personally, I feel like that's why people will call Helping Seniors of Brevard for a referral. I do know that people that have reached out through an 800 number, oftentimes they will start receiving paperwork, and then they find that they really need someone to sit at the kitchen table and explain it. And they'll go to their bank and they'll say, I need someone who knows about reverse mortgages. And there are no local banks that offer reverse mortgages. I'm very proud to say that I get a lot of referrals from local bankers. And when you're sitting across the table from someone, I can look at them while I'm explaining something, and I can tell by their face if they understand or not. And when you're on an 800 number on a telephone, the person on the other end of the phone might have the best intentions. It might not be that they're trying to do something wrong. It just is that maybe they can't see you. So how do they know if you're truly understanding the product? And so I just think it's always any financial decision, you should involve your family, involve your financial planner. I've even met with people that had their minister come. So, whoever you trust. And if my clients have local family and they are having the local family is going to help them make the decision, I say, I will schedule the appointment. You let me know when your daughter or your son can be there. And I will do whatever needs to happen around their availability. Because it does affect a whole family in some cases. So I think that's why the 800 numbers just aren't the best route to go. But I think people are nervous that they feel like it's easier to say no to someone on the phone than maybe in your face, but not me. It's not. I make it very easy to say no to me.
Well, you've said it. You said it really well, because I think that is a thing that people sometimes feel like the anonymity of a Google search, or maybe calling it 800 numbers, like, oh, they're not going to hunt me down and pester me about this. And see, that's the thing that I like about what you're explaining. You really are a resource. And so and to be honest, that's how all the people that we work with on the Helping Seniors group see themselves as. It's like, I'm in business, but I don't have to have your business. I want to make sure it's the right thing for you and it's good for you as well. And that's really the best kind of business anyway. When you think about it, you're providing a very valuable service, but it's a service that's equally valuable to the person who is receiving that. But the problem is, if you go off-roading and try to figure out these complex technical kind of things on your own, you don't know until it's too late if you found a bad apple or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I say you get and I've even heard, elder law attorneys say, fine, go get several consultations, but we're probably all going to tell you the same thing, about your paperwork or things like that. I've heard with the same discussion, we're in the middle of what they call annual enrollment period on Medicare. It's that time of year where your mailbox just gets flooded with stuff. And we have a number of people, really, really good expert Medicare people who have been in the trenches for years. They've been studying on the changes. They are in a position to help you navigate, for example, what's happening with, your Part D coverage. Is that going to affect your donut hole next year? Things like that. Why on earth would you want to try to read through all the fine print yourself instead of you get to know somebody that you can trust, who you really believe is going to have your best interest in heart, who has the expertise to walk you through that. And I really think that you exemplify that, Barbara McIntyre, and what you do in the reverse mortgage field, because I've seen you take calls from people out of state. You can't even officially help them in another state, but they say, I saw your TV show on Helping Seniors. I really want to, I like how you broke this down. What about this? It must make you feel good that you're at least, that you're making that difference.
Absolutely. I love to talk to because the product is the same. It's a government product. So no matter where you live, all the ins and outs about the product are exactly the same.
Sure.
So, I'm very flattered when someone from California says, I'll never forget it. He said, I'm looking at you right now. And I went, excuse me? And he was looking at a TV broadcast Joe Steckler and I had done, and he was in California. So I actually spoke to him a couple of times, and then I gave him someone local to him that he could sit down with. But it was very funny.
Yeah. So we just have a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to ask you, I know we've had the conversation before, and I know this is not like hurry up and buy. I'm asking more from a perspective, you read all the stuff that's going on economically. They talk about, the problems that we have with inflation. I mean, that's why the cost of living adjustment to Social Security. There's people talking about, maybe the housing market isn't going to be as strong next year as it mortgages this year. Interest rates seem to be on the rise. What does that mean from your kind of experience viewpoint for somebody who might be considering this idea of a reverse mortgage? Does that mean now is a good time, or is it better to wait and see? I mean, how do you kind of like sort through all of what's going on?
Right, that's a real good question, Kerry. The home values, I'm not even going to say they've peaked, because there is still, it's a little bit of a cooling as far as the volume of buyers. So the home values are kind of steady right now, but they're still at a high. They haven't started to retract at all, and I personally don't really expect to see that. You're right, interest rates definitely have been climbing. The higher the interest rate is, the lower the benefit to a borrower on a reverse mortgage. However, with that being said, the benefit of this product is that the interest rate on this product goes up when there's a little bit of inflation, and it goes down as well. So in the 17 years that I've done this product, I have seen interest rates going higher where they are now, and then back down to insignificant. It's difficult to tell someone whether to wait or whether to go forward, because I don't have that crystal ball. But I can say that if I was in my early 60s, I would definitely want to know what the benefit would be, because there is a feature to this mortgage, a line of credit that actually will grow over time. And if rates are higher, it grows at a compounding rate even faster. So depending on what the borrower needed, I would definitely be looking at it now. So, it's really, each situation is kind of different. So that's why the phone call, the conversation is worth it. But, we don't know how long rates would be higher, how high they'll go, when they'll be back down. Well, really, when you think about it, we have all gotten very, very spoiled with how low rates have been for a very long time. So when you look at a 5% rate right now, everybody goes, oh, no, it's that high? And you're like, 5-6%, that's that bad? No, not really. So we're in a phase where people are, having to remember how rates could be and have been.
I'm smiling when you say that, because I've heard Joe Steckler, our president and founder, talk about buying his first home when interest rates were 18%. To me, that seems hard to imagine. That's like buying it with your credit card or something.
Yeah, that was in 1981, and Kerry, I did the same thing.
Wow. Hey, I think it's incredible. So to kind of sum this up, we're talking with Barbara McIntyre, reverse mortgage expert with Reverse Mortgage Funding. If somebody just wants to call and have a conversation, say, I don't know where I'm at on this, but I'd at least like to tell you, here's my house, here's where I'm at. What would this look like for me? How do they reach you?
They very easily pick up their phone, dial 321-259-7880. 90% of the time, I will answer it. If I don't answer it, it's because I'm speaking to someone else. So They give me a call, and I can answer all their questions.
Well, thank you, Barbara McIntyre, for being with us today. And the first part, we were talking about the Helping Seniors car raffle, so I'm going to close out with that, because it is just a week and a half away. And as we were talking about, Barbara McIntyre does have your tickets, and as you said, you're better than like Grubhub, right? Because you'll deliver those tickets right there to you, and it's really thank you for doing that. By the way, it helps your donation to buy those tickets helps keep us going as Helping Seniors. We're like I said, into our 12th year of service. We need your help, but the car raffle is a fun way to do it. See you Saturday, October 29th, and we'll see you next Wednesday right here on Helping Seniors Radio.